Hi, friends. My name is Marina Shepelsky. I'm an immigration attorney and founder of Shepelsky Law Group. Today, I have a wonderful guest, Dr. Ina Revutsky. She's a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and she is a great part of our work in immigration cases, especially humanitarian cases that include VAWA, marriage cases with abuse, asylum, visa for victims and witnesses of crimes. Anytime we have to show that the client suffered trauma, we get an expert evaluation from Dr. Ina, and Dr. Ina works and writes these amazing reports for our cases that goes over the client's story, that puts the diagnosis in from the traditional American medical, system approach. Sometimes she'll even prescribe, medical treatment like the medications, drugs for certain patients when the trauma is extreme. So these types of reports are super helpful, and I want to let Dr. Ina talk about her background, her education, and how she ended up in this work.
Hi, friends. I'm Ina Revutsky. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And the reason why I do immigration psychiatric reports is because of Marina. Marina and I know each other since 1989. We both immigrated to Brooklyn, New York. We both went to South Shore High School. And Marina and I have known each other for a very, very long time. And as I was completing my education, Marina was sort of working the angle to get me to do psychiatric evaluations for her. So it's not a traditional route. It's not something that they teach us to do in school. It is something that I sort of fell into accidentally because of Marina. And when I really started working with the population, I really fell in love with the cases
With the
because
work, with this work.
yeah, I mean, I take a huge stand for justice. I take a huge stance for people's rights. It really upsets me when people are abused or mistreated, which happens very often to the misrepresented and misheard, undocumented. For example, when women get married to a man who they think are the man of their dreams, and then they move to the United States, and then in a few months or sometimes even a few weeks, they find themselves in these predicaments where they are not with the person who they thought they were going to be with. So we write detailed reports, and apparently they make a huge difference.
They do. They make a difference. And both Ina and I have always been great fighters against injustice. I'm not just an attorney, I also do a lot of advocating for immigrant rights. And when Ina was going to school, this is her second education. She's actually also a doctor of acupuncture. She understands Eastern medicine very well. And then she's very much for holistic treatment, but she also went to school to be a psychiatric nurse practitioner as an adult, as a mother already. And I was telling Ina that I think she would be perfect for this work because she's an immigrant. She loves immigrants. She's always helping out someone. Whenever I talk to Ina, she's always doing some charity work or getting somebody, clothes, or sending aid to Ukraine or to some other country. So this is exactly the kind of work that she's perfect for. And she's an amazing writer. These reports are so well written, they're like novels. So whenever we submit these reports in your VAWA case, by the way, lots of men get abused in marriage too by U.S. citizen ladies. For ladies who get married to a U.S. citizen, it turns out the guy is a gambler or a drug user, or addicted to prescription medications, huge debts, is an abuser, doesn't let her have food sometimes, doesn't let her have money for like basic necessities. So we see all kinds of cases. We also ask Dr. Ina sometimes to do expert evaluations for asylum cases, or expediting an interview when you've been waiting for too long and you need that interview moved. Sometimes we need a doctor to say, hey, this person is too ill to wait this long. So this is the kind of work that we do. She writes amazing reports. So the question comes up, though. You said you're a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Is there a difference between a psychological or psychiatric evaluation, and like what is the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist?
So a psychologist is someone who does talk therapy, someone who you come to talk to about a specific set of issues, whether they're cognitive issues, behavioral issues, uh, some things that you may not even be aware of as an issue, and then it comes up during talk therapy. A psychiatrist is someone who prescribes medications, someone who does less talking and more prescribing. But a psychiatrist may direct you to a specific type of a therapist. For example, as Marina said, we do asylum cases, people who recently came from Ukraine, or even people who recently came from other countries who've been exposed to acute trauma. They need to have trauma therapy so it doesn't turn into a post-traumatic stress disorder, something that's acute that gets ignored or kind of put into a back pocket can turn into a chronic problem. So we try to prevent it. And oftentimes during my assessments, I make recommendations for people to go and see a specific type of a therapist who can help them prevent a more chronic issue. Or for example, if someone has anxiety or panic or depression or is thinking about ending their life, again, they may need a medical prescription to help them overcome a specific symptom. So that's really the difference. Therapy is more talking. It's done by people who are psychologists. They usually have a doctorate degree. Therapy could also be done by a social worker. All these people have really wonderful listening skills. They have a lot of different tools that they could use. Psychiatrists come up with a plan of care. They can make a prescription or a recommendation or both. And what I do is I come up with a medical review of an issue. I write up a report that gets submitted together with your immigration paperwork that helps kind of attorneys win their cases.
Okay. So you are more of an expert, the way people are used to, if they watch TV, Law and Order. A ballistic expert comes in and talks about the gunshot and the gun wound. An expert about cars from the famous movie, My Cousin Vinny, when the woman knew about cars, and she talks about the tracks that the car left, and because of those tracks, it couldn't have been these defendants. The same way you are the expert of somebody's trauma and mental health. But when we file for humanitarian cases like asylum or VAWA, sometimes cancellation of removal, we need your expert opinion if the diagnoses that you see are connected to the topic for which this case is filed, right? So how do you work with clients? What would you like them to do before they even come to you?
I'd like the client to really know that I'm on their side. I'm part of their team that helps them win the case. Oftentimes, details come up during my assessments that they didn't think about. Different kinds of parts of their story come out that they sort of did not include in their original paperwork. And it's nothing to worry about. It's something to just kind of be aware of, that we may uncover things that you didn't think about or didn't include. And that's why part of my process, after we do an initial assessment, I send the report back to the client. The client reviews for errors and misspellings of the names and dates, accuracy of their detail recollections. And once they approve it, we submit it to the legal team. And at times, an attorney may use some of the parts of our report in their paperwork that they submit to wherever this paperwork goes. So most importantly, don't worry, relax. I'm part of your process. I'm here to help you, and I'm here to document and make your voice be heard.
I remember you told me a story that you worked with an attorney, I believe from Arizona, on a case, and he read your report and he said, "Oh my God, the client never even told me about, I think it was like a rape and there was other abuse that the person suffered." He was afraid to tell his lawyer. It was a man, so men are often like a little more hesitant than women to talk about bad things that happen to them. And it came out in your session and you included it in your report, and the lawyer added it to the lawyer's story, actually, and the story became part of the client's asylum case. So do you work with other attorneys at other states?
I do, because these are federal cases. I kind of work everywhere.
Through telemedicine, right? Like this, through the
Yep,
camera.
we do exactly this. We do exactly this. We set up a Zoom call, and the session is set up, and the person comes on, and I come on. A lot of times, people call me from the hiding. They're hiding in their car. They're hiding somewhere outside. We're able to do these assessments really anywhere.
Okay.
As long as a client could be open, as long as they feel safe to talk to me, we're able to do a case really across the United States.
So you work with clients from different states, and I understand you are working with different attorneys, and I understand you will be attending the National AILA conference, which is the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Dr. Ina is attending as an expert, as a psychiatric nurse practitioner who writes this evaluation. So she is very knowledgeable about immigration law, where she takes her personal time and actually attends lawyer conferences to listen and to meet other people who practice immigration law and to have an understanding of exactly what you guys need to win your case. So if you work with a lawyer already, call Dr. Ina. An evaluation at any point in your case, in the beginning, in the middle, towards the end, will definitely help you win. It could be that little push that you need to push your case, if it's like 50-50, into the winning side, that winning percentage that you need. And I do look at immigration cases like a little bit of a race. I want to win. I'm not just in it to get a participation trophy. I'm not just in it to kind of have somebody have a lawyer. I'm in it to win your case. So if you want to win, I think you should use a psychiatrist, and I think Dr. Ina is great for that.
I wanted to also say that besides doing this in a Zoom session, I utilize different scales and different kinds of assessment tools that help me come up with your diagnosis. So I don't just have a conversation with you and review your documents or review your story and say, hey, this person is anxious, or this person is depressed, or this person has PTSD. I actually have standardized scales that I use during my assessment to determine how anxious are you, how depressed are you, what level of PTSD do you have? And then based on the scores that I obtain, I then make recommendations. If you have mild depression, maybe you'd benefit with just kind of doing weekly therapy. If you have moderate to severe depression, you need medication. I have had cases where people contact me several weeks after the report was submitted, and they are really having a difficult time coping with what's happening. I've made recommendations to people to actually go and see someone face to face.
So you were saying that there's a health benefit to you for using Dr. Ina's services as somebody, not just an expert evaluation, but as a doctor. She is a trained doctor, and she knows what questions to ask you. The questions that sometimes we talk, we're friends, and in conversation will come up, and she's not talking about our clients. Sometimes she's talking about her patients, and she'll say, I talked to a guy and I asked him this, and this whole new story came out. Because when the person is trained to ask the right questions, the right answers will come out. So that's what's important. Tell me, I had a question for you that I wrote down. What if you already have like your case submitted? Um, can you work with somebody that already filed a case? Have you had experiences where you came in like already sort of in the middle of a case?
I have worked with clients. Again, I'm not an attorney, so I always kind of send them back to consult with their attorney to see if my report is going to be beneficial. But I have come into a case where someone's paperwork was already submitted, and for example, the person has been waiting and waiting and waiting, and the waiting is driving them sort of insane, and they're anxious, or they have a health condition and their case needs to be expedited. So at that point, I could come in and do an eval that will help expedite the case. Or, for example, if it's an elderly person who is losing their cognitive status and they're concerned that they're not going to be well enough to withstand the interview that may come up in 3 years from now or 2 years from now, I could make those recommendations in my report to expedite based on those grounds.
And as an immigration expert, I can tell you it's never too late to have a really good psychiatric evaluation in your case. It helps you win court cases when a judge will listen to an expert. They're neutral. They're not somebody that's paid to be like your advocate the way a lawyer is. They just come in and look at you and say, okay, this person has depression, they have anxiety, this degree of anxiety, this degree of depression. This is directly related. It's as a result of domestic violence or persecution in their home country, or the abuse they suffered from the crime, they experienced, or they're worried about their parent getting deported. This is the psychological and psychiatric issues they have. They will not be able to get treatment in Ukraine or in Kazakhstan or in India or in Bangladesh or in Nigeria like they need here. Here's the treatment they need here. They're not going to get that in Nigeria. So at any point in your case is not too late. And another question I have is how to make sure that the report is not getting lost. Like, how do we make sure that it does make it into the case?
We use identifiers. In medicine, anytime you go to a hospital, they identify you with the first, last name, your date of birth. So please make sure that the name is spelled correctly, the date of birth is accurate. That's how we identify our clients. Every report, every page of the report has the client's name, date of birth, and that is, I don't know, do they submit the report with a specific case number? That's not something that I submit. It's a client.
Yes, but it's enough. Like you will put in your reports. I've seen you put name and date of birth. That's usually enough. That's usually enough to make sure they don't lose it. But of course, when you work with an attorney, you attach it to a cover letter that has the alien number on it as well. Immigration identifies everyone by their alien number, but they have the capability to match the name and date of birth as well. It takes just a little bit more work, but we don't even ask them to do that. If you have a good attorney, if you work with us or somebody in Arizona or California or Texas, Dr. Ina has clients in Texas and all of the states, then they will definitely include it as the evidence in the case. I think that we said so much today and gave so much information. I thank you for your time, Dr. Ina. And I thank you guys for watching. And I'm going to just say goodbye, and I'll ask Dr. Ina to give one last piece of advice, and we'll sign off.
Thank you so much for taking your time to listen to us. If you're interested in signing up, visit my website, nursingthemind.com. It has my contact information, and the banner below gives you our contact information. But yeah, I'm really excited to answer all your questions.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye.